Hello, my people. Hopefully you are doing good, and this podcast is hitting you on a day when you're, feeling good. And whatever time of day it is, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Anyway, let's launch into it. Hello and welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott, where I hope that my cats do not loudly interrupt everything I say, and where I talk about life, love, magic, happiness, healing, tarot, spirituality, mediumship, blah, 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 everything in between, all my favorite things, and hopefully your favorite things too. So firstly, thank you for listening. If you dig the pod, and that makes me feel like an actual podcaster if I say pod often enough, please leave a 5-star review, rating, whatever, spread the word, tell your people. It would mean the world. Anyway, so speaking of your people, what I wanted to talk about today is how important who is in your life really is. And this is something I'm always learning. And every time I learn this, it just kind of keeps deepening and keeps flowing and keeps getting even more complex and nuanced and honestly more beautiful and more full of possibility, which is just beautiful. So let's talk about it. So who is in your circle matters. I know you've probably heard that saying before of you are the summary of the 6 people you spend the most time with or whatever. I'm sure we've all heard that. And I know that phrase has definitely inspired me to reconsider many a friendship in the past for sure. But I really have cleaned house on a lot of that stuff, and I really recommend everyone else does too. And today I want to talk a little bit about this topic in more depth than just that simple thing, because I do think it is more, there's just more to say than simply oh yeah, you're the summary of all the people you hang out with, and if you don't really like what you see in terms of that, then it's time to dump some folks and find some new friends. That might be true, absolutely, and honestly it probably is true. If the people in your life don't inspire you, if you kind of resent them, if you're kind of annoyed with them, if you just think they're making all these life mistakes, if you think they have bad judgment, what does it say about you that is what you're spending time with? That's what you're letting into your life, right? I think often we stay in connections like that, whether it's friends, lovers, with family, whatever, because we have a scarcity feeling. I think oftentimes people, folks will do this because they're oh, there's no one else that will love me or get me on this level. There's no, I already have so much history with this person, so why not just keep being friends with them, even though I hate everything about them? I think a lot of people end up there, and honestly, I see it so much, and I find it so fascinating. A lot of time, folks will stay in these connections out of a feeling of obligation that is totally self-imposed, and it can fuck up your shit, to be honest. It really can. And today I want to talk about this, but on an energetic level, and some of the way that I've been working through this lately, and some of my recent downloads and lessons around this. So I'm really good with, seeing the writing on the wall and just realizing that I am not for somebody or somebody is not for me. And I've gotten pretty cutthroat with that. So oftentimes, to use a dating life example, if someone does something to piss me off, or it's very clear that we're not a match, or it's so early and they're trying to be a manipulative loser, or whatever the fuck, or they just insult me when they're mad, all these things that are this is your best foot forward, we literally just met each other and you're just going to be a psycho in my direction. I block those people, even if it's a minor thing. And that might sound psychotic, but let me tell you why it's not. It actually is a behavior that comes from an attitude of gratitude and abundance. and abundance, because I believe that there is enough phenomenal, amazing, kind, generous, self-actualized, self-aware, emotionally available people out there that if someone is showing me colors that are clearly awful so early, that is probably the best I'll encounter from them. And why give that another chance? Why give someone 2 chances to disappoint you? It doesn't really make sense. Like, people should not get back with their exes. Like, there's very few cases where that isn't true. And so I think, and I feel that by, telling the universe a decisive no, as I've said in a previous episode of this podcast, one of the earliest ones actually, it's like what to do when your manifestation flops. Like when your manifestation, let's say if somebody is so close, but so far they're missing, whatever, they turn out to be sketchy or, fill in the blank. Maybe they turn out to be manipulative and crazy. Like, it's important to throw that shit back where it came from. Like, to use the words of the youth, like yeet it back from whence it came and tell the universe a big fat no. I don't want that. That's not what I asked for. It's close, but it doesn't feel good to me. And instead of trying to force it to feel good, I'm gonna move on and say no. Thanks, next. And I think it's so important to do that with our circles sometimes. And obviously it's going to be a bit harder to do with, friends we've had for a really long time than someone we just met on an app for like 3 weeks or something. Like, obviously those folks are like a lot easier to let go. But I do think this like audit is important to do regularly. And I think it's important to notice the effect people's energy has on us and our energy. And one of the things that I noticed in my own life is, I did used to not block anybody, like ever, even in like a dating context, like early dating context. So like people keep crawling back from the woodwork and like still be their lame, half-assed self from however many years ago. Same. And so I decided I'm not going to be available for that anymore. I just like blocked all those people. And like moving forward, I always block whoever the fuck. And it's like, it's raised my vibration so much. And what I've noticed is the fiercer and stricter I am about this, the higher and higher caliber of person the universe keeps throwing at me. And I mean in all areas of life, like friendship, lovers, like business, partnerships, like, connections, like everything. And it's so important to just say no when something is not in alignment with us rather than turn a blind eye. So I'll give another example. I actually had a friend break up with a male friend of like 5 or 6 years recently. And I'll tell you the story without giving away too much detail. So we're out for dinner having a lovely time. And I don't know what happened, but in all of that 5 years, I had never heard this man talk this way. He was telling me about women he was having sex with, and like the way that he was talking about them was just so disrespectful and like crude and just fucked up and weird. And it honestly was so shocking and offensive. Like, he was so unrecognizable to me. And I don't know if he was always like that or if this was like a new weirdo fucking thing that he was going through, or he was just being like, fuckboy asshole mode. I have no idea. But it honestly was shocking. Like, he was imitating these women's like sex noises, and it's like, some woman he was telling me that he didn't like and thought was a psycho, he like had sex with her again. And I was just like, what? It was insane. I could go on and on, but it would be pointless because I feel like I've illustrated my point. But anyway, what happened was I decided to confront him about it and be like, hey, like, thank you so much for dinner. I had a great time. But the way that you talked about these women, I just found it shocking, and I'm disappointed that that's how you are. And I had no idea. And what the hell? And it's clear you don't respect these women that you're having sex with, and it's very clear that you don't respect yourself. That's what I said. And it was like, lots of love, but like, what the fuck? Like, that's not how I live my life, and I don't really want to know anyone who lives their life in that way. And so, he was shocked, took some space, but at the end of the day, like, there was a decision on his part not to move forward with the friendship, which to me was so fascinating. And so what it kind of was he, I think, was just like hit with this fragility of, being challenged with some core part of his identity that probably led him to feel a lot of shame and embarrassment, which, like, fair enough, you should be feeling ashamed and embarrassed if you are bragging about sleeping with all the women on the first dates in your mid-30s. Like, that is, like, a weird thing to be doing. Like, we're not teenagers. But anyway, instead of working with that as an opportunity to level himself up, self-reflect, just take a good hard look at his treatment of women and his attitudes towards women, that's what I was hoping he would do. He instead chose to basically say, like, I can never tell you anything again, and so therefore we shouldn't be friends, because now I could never tell you anything. And it's like, fair enough, we probably shouldn't be friends, because our ideas and our values of how to behave in the world, how to talk about other people, how to treat other people, how to talk about and treat the people that we have sex with is very, very different. And it's not aligned, and it's not on the same page. And I'm not interested in being a coach to my friends. I'm not interested in, taking responsibility for their weirdness. Like, I can, like, present someone with an information, and they can decide to rise to that. They can decide to self-reflect, or they can decide, I'm happy with who I am, even if it's, if you find it disrespectful, I don't care. And that was kind of his take. And whatever, it is what it is. But all of this to say that I do think it is important to have these values-based conversations and these confrontations if necessary. And so many blessings have come into my life in terms of amazing people after that friendship has ended. And so in many ways, like, that confrontation created so much more energetic and spiritual space for the universe to work with, to attract better men, more healed men who respect women and aren't fucking weird with how they talk about women into my life instead. And so I hope this makes sense. Like, it's not just about this, like, rational, intellectual, who you spend the most time with is who you are. It's not just that. It's operating on a spiritual, energetic level of attraction, and like attracts like. And so if I can now vibrate higher at a better, more, like, integrity-tacular, juicier, like, more highly evolved energy and vibration, now that individual is out of my circle, then that means I can attract and am attracting people that are operating at a similar frequency to me, because my frequency is not being lowered by, fuckboys as my friends. And so this might sound like disposability politics, but it isn't. I let that person go with love. I was hoping that he would choose to up level, but I don't have control over if someone chooses to rise with me. I hope that people in my life rise to my level, and I hope they challenge me to rise even further than I already am. I'm sure there's many people in my life that I also am challenged to rise to their level, and I love that. But, it doesn't mean that we're all for each other. If someone's, like, bringing down your vibe, if you really don't agree with how they live their life, if you really don't agree with their values, then yeah, they probably are getting in the way of some of your manifestations and your magic and you living your best fucking possible life. And that sounds, I'm sure some people are going to think that's callous and bitchy. Maybe it is, but I also find it incredibly pragmatic, and I like to see people for who they are rather than who I wish they were. And I wish this now ex-friend of mine was, like, willing to face his shame and face his, like, weirdo fuckery. Like, I wish that was the case, because he's got a lot of amazing qualities. Is he willing to do that? Apparently not. And so I've released control of that situation, I know that I can't change anyone, and that is not my work to do, especially outside of office hours. And so I step into acceptance, radical acceptance, which is a form of inner peace. To just know that it's not personal, we're just not for each other, we're not vibrating at a similar level, and that just is what it is. Everyone is on their own journey. And so if it's helpful to think about some of your like yeeting of humans in that way, I hope you can embrace that. It doesn't mean anyone's necessarily a bad person. It doesn't mean you have to hate them. It doesn't mean you have to stop loving them if that's the case for you. But I really do think that sometimes keeping these folks around and not challenging them on their behavior, not giving them the opportunity to rise, we can do ourselves a disservice by being in this energy that fundamentally is different from who we want to be and where we want to go. And I do think it's important to live our lives with a framework of abundance and trust and know the fact, which is there are so many wonderful humans on this planet that are fucking enlightened and living life with integrity and who treat other people with respect. That is a thing. There are fucking people like that. I've met them. They're fucking wonderful. It's beautiful. And I think when we create space for that, we have to believe that it's possible, and we create space and then it comes to us. There is all of this law of attraction. I have a previous podcast episode about that. Affirmations can help with this. I've got a podcast episode about that, as well as an affirmation series you can buy on my website, sabrinamscott.com. I'm pretty sure it is in the self-development section. I may or may not have changed my website by the time you listen to this. Who knows? But anyway, it's on there. If you can't find it, email me, ceo@sabrinamscott.com. Blah, blah, blah. I got to put that in there. But anyway, all of that to say, it's so important who we do life with. It really is. And if you're not happy with who you're surrounded by, take that risk to jump and trust that if you create space, the universe will provide you even more wonderful fucking people, and your life will be even better than you ever thought it could have fucking been. It is a fact. You just have to move with that trust. Trust that you can handle being alone for a little while. Trust that you can deal with the empty text message inbox for a while. And trust that there are people who are doing the work just like you are doing the work. People who are not projects, people who will not make you a project, and people that you don't have to make into a project. People who have done the work. It exists. You just have to claim it, manifest it, summon it to you, but you also have to be at that level yourself to attract that. And so this is the process, my friends. This is also witchcraft. This is also alchemy. This is also integration. It is magical. And it is beautiful. It is transformative. I have lived it. I know that you can too. If you would like to reach out and talk to me about how I might be able to help you on your journey, please do. My inbox is open, ceo@sabrinamscott.com. I really hope to hear from you. Yeah, because I love this stuff. I think it's so important. Like, I wish I knew all this a decade ago, but hey, it's part of the journey. As always, thank you so much from the bottom of my little heart for listening. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. If you dig, please give me a 5-star rating. Please share with a friend. This podcast is also now on YouTube, so if that's your thing, go follow it up. My YouTube is just Sabrina Scott, no M, because I guess there's not as many Sabrinas on YouTube, which is shocking, but hey, I'll take it. All right, friends, see you in the next episode. Lots of love. Bye.